12 statewide advocacy groups are asking legislators and the governor to include a 3.2% increase in the cost of living adjustment and $500 million for mental health and substance use disorder services in the 2024 to 2025 state budget. A rally was held in Albany on Monday, February 5th at the state capitol. Speakers at the rally talked about the challenges of providing mental health care in the current economic climate.
We have for years and years wanted a governor who cared deeply about mental health issues, and we have one. Governor Hochul has been very much talking about mental health all the time, has put investments in mental health, but we need that workforce to make sure that those investments really happen. You can invest all the money you want, but if you don't have the workers to put that together, what's going to happen? We all know what's going to happen. So that's why we need a cost of living adjustment of 3.2%, and we need a $500 million investment. And again, I just want to thank everyone. Everyone encapsulated it so well, and so importantly, the work that needs to be done, and the continued commitment of all of us and the entire advocacy community, all of our statewide agencies representing hundreds of thousands of individuals will be out here throughout the next few months, ensuring that we get a 3.2% COLA and we get a $500 million investment in mental health. So,
I am a person who lives with a serious mental illness, who is a light-skinned Latina, a displaced Puerto Rican, a migrant, a member of the LGBT community. All of this means something to me. These are the communities that I am part of. When I'm seeking mental health support for myself, I need to find someone who can understand this. I need to find someone who can relate and can validate my experience. Being seen and heard is essential to healing, but I feel like there is no space for me in the mental health system. I don't feel seen, represented, included, heard, or even taken into consideration sometimes. The system doesn't understand what my experiences are, what barriers to care I face, and what my struggles are as a person that has multiple underserved intersections. The system doesn't have the tools, training, best practices, or resources to work with people with different experiences and backgrounds. And it has very few people who can speak my first language or even look like me. These institutions can have the best intentions in the world to help people like me, but they don't have those resources to put in place the support systems that we actually need, that my community needs to heal and survive. I need to keep in mind that I am one of the privileged ones. I am educated, I am light-skinned, I am fluent in English, I am housed, I have stable employment, I work within the mental health arena, and I can stand on public platforms like this one and tell my story and be heard. Still, I have been on the waiting list for a mental health support for more than 3 months. Since I was kicked out of service after being their client for 5 years because I missed 2 appointments. They thought that they had a waiting list too long and they couldn't spare that resource, which understandable. Yeah, it is true. They're doing the best that they can with what they have, which means that we need to step up. We need to do better. We need to do the better for them, and we need to do better for ourselves. I am a person who lives with type 1 fast cycling bipolar disorder, among other diagnoses. I need these services to survive, and they are difficult for me to get with all of my privilege. So what happens to people, or with people who don't have access to those same spaces, people, resources, and tools that I do? Who have struggled things that I can't even start to comprehend? What about them? Who supports them? Our communities are in desperate need of culturally aware, trauma-informed mental health support and psychiatric care. We must designate funding for the intentional diversification of staff in the mental health system, so that we have an accurate representation of the myriad of cultures and experiences that exist in our society. We must designate funding for intentional training and continued education efforts that give mental health staff the support and tools they need and knowledge they need to be able to better serve the communities they serve. Training like cultural awareness, trauma-informed care, health disparities, barriers to care, health literacy, and many others. I am not talking about a 1-hour training once a year. I am talking about mandatory continued education in these topics. And I am not asking to add these requirements on an already understaffed, underworked, and underpaid workforce. We need to staff our mental health system, and that starts with offering competitive living wages. Unfortunately, we do not offer that. Neither do we provide any type of retention benefit for the people who are there. A 3.2% increase in COLA that we're asking for is not a match against the economic reality and hardship that most of the people in the system are facing, but it's at least a gasp of air for them. It is difficult for people to show up to their workplace as their best authentic selves to provide services to underserved and oppressed communities while they have to figure out where they're going to get the money to pay for rent. Or are tired because they work multiple jobs to keep food on the table. We need to care for those that care for us. They too are community members. They are not excluded from the hardships of life, from experiences vicarious trauma. We need to be able to offer them sustainable, trauma-informed work environments that take into account their needs and experiences. In the same way we want to meet our communities where they are, we must meet the needs of our mental health staff for them to be able to provide their best self in this work. Thank you.
Governor Hochul's budget proposal included a 1.5% cost of living adjustment, but advocates say that this is not enough. The COLA is not just about staff salaries. It must also address ever-increasing costs associated with operating programs and services such as gas, food, utilities, and insurance. Like all households and businesses, agencies are continuing to do more with less as current economic conditions have inflated the real costs associated with retaining staff and paying bills. Agencies that provide services to the most vulnerable adults, children, and families with mental health and substance use disorder need must remain competitive with larger corporations who can pay well over minimum wage. A 3.2% COLA and $500 million in additional investments are necessary to assist in leveling the playing field and securing a stronger workforce. New York State is experiencing an increase in overdose deaths due to fentanyl. There is an urgent need to expand access to effective treatments, said Allegra Shore, president of the Coalition of Medication-Assisted Treatment Providers and Advocates. The final state budget is due April 1st.